Now I want to ask you about this voter suppression thing.
Yeah.
Look at this billboard here. Look at this billboard from Carlos. Show it. Voters will be asked, but not required. That's a billboard. I think it was in Colorado. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's like they make it look like you have to have this. But if you read the fine print, it says you don't really have to.
Right. It's a problem.
It's a little scary.
Now, you know, the Justice Department handles all these cases, so, you know, I can't weigh in on any particular state. Here's one thing I know, that throughout our history, our country's always been stronger when everybody had a voice. And, you know, it took a long time to make sure that the franchise expanded to everybody. But we should be thinking about ways to make it easier for folks to vote, not to make it harder for folks to vote. And, you know, and that's why this early voting is actually really terrific. And we want to encourage, obviously, everybody, regardless of who you're voting for, make sure to take advantage of it and find out whether you can exercise early vote in your state.
I thought that was such an interesting exchange last night when the president went on The Tonight Show. Jay Leno asked the president about voter suppression. He shows that item actually from Pennsylvania there. And the president condemns it, right? Says we shouldn't have it. We should be trying to make it easier to vote, not harder. But then he immediately pivots to early voting. The president making the argument that if the states, for whatever reason, are going to make it harder for people to vote this year, one way to beat that is to vote early. And logistically, you know, it makes sense. If Republicans in the states are going to change the rules to make you show new documentation you never had to show before in order to vote this time, if they're going to reduce the time that the polls are open in order to make the lines longer, if they're going to have people at the polls or even in advance of voting day challenging voters and trying to have voters thrown off the rolls to keep them from voting, no matter what the Republicans are going to try to do in the states to keep people from voting this year, early voting can be a way around it. I mean, with early voting, you can vote on your own time when it's convenient for you. If the lines are too long the first day you try, you do have the option of trying another day. If someone challenges you or someone tries to mess with your eligibility or you have an ID issue, voting early means you will have time to solve that problem and get your vote cast, which you might not have if you wait until Election Day and you find that you have problems that day. We are now at the time in the election when a change is happening. The Democratic side is pivoting from just fighting the Republicans about Republicans making voting harder and less accessible this year. Democrats now are pivoting from just fighting them to also telling people to not worry about it, to plan to work around these things. There's no use complaining about it now with 12 days out. The Democratic line now is essentially that the important thing is that you just get it in there. You get it done. After 2 solid years of sounding the alarm on Republican efforts to suppress the vote, the Democrats' message now is don't whine, don't worry, just do it. Vote early.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
This is so exciting. I get to vote early. So this is the first time the president's ever early voted. That's pretty exciting. It makes such a difference so folks don't have to take off time from work. You know, they can arrange it around their schedule. Really is really good, really important. For all of you who have not yet early voted, I just want everybody to see what an incredibly efficient process this was, thanks to the outstanding folks who are at this particular polling place. Obviously, folks in Illinois can take advantage of this, but all across the country we're seeing a lot of early voting. It means you don't have to figure out whether you need to take time off work, figure out how to pick up the kids, and still cast your ballot.
This photo op wasn't just a guy voting early today. This was the President of the United States essentially doing an infomercial for America for early voting. Voting early. It slices, it dices, it juliennes. There are a million news stories every day now about specific states and specific counties screwing with the voting process. Remember we told you last week how the largest county in Arizona, they were telling Spanish-speaking voters to vote on the 8th of November and English-speaking voters to vote on actual Election Day, which is the 6th. Well, now it turns out it's worse in that county. Maricopa County, it turns out, is also saying that it handed out Spanish-language voter information bookmarks in the Phoenix area, bookmarks that also told Spanish-speaking voters to turn up after Election Day was over. Nice. That's the same deal now, actually, in Northwest Ohio, where a county just outside Toledo, Ottawa County, mailed postcards to more than 2,000 voters with the wrong election date on them. Again, like in Arizona, the date they are telling people to show up and vote is 2 days after the election, when the election will be over. This is a county where President Obama beat John McCain by only 1,400 votes in 2008. But hey, it's not like Ohio's expected to be close again this year or anything. Every day there are a bunch of news stories like this, right, of sketchy dealings in critical states and critical counties that all seem to err on the side of tricking people or blocking people from voting in a way that will have their vote cast. Notice these errors never accidentally tell people to turn up early, right? These errors always tell people to turn up late when the election will already be over. But you know what? There is a time to fight this, and there is a time to be mad about this, but there's also a time to just get it done, right? To just make your plans. If they're going to try to mess with your vote, you get in there and vote early and get it done. If all the news of these shenanigans makes you feel like you trying to vote is going to be pointless and you shouldn't bother and it's going to be too much of a hassle and they're not going to count your vote anyway, if that's how you feel, if you're dissuaded from voting because you sense it's going to be futile, then their plan to keep you from voting has worked. Don't let it work. Don't put it off to the last minute when it might be too late, no matter who you are voting for. Get it done.